Hey guys, thanks for clicking on today's video. We're going to take a look at every single LEGO Spider-Man minifig that's ever been made. Yes, I've spent my entire life tracking all of these down, and I finally can say I have every LEGO Spider-Man minifigure ever. Now, I'd love to know in the comments how many of these you have, or which one you want the most. This goes from the most common Spider-Man minifigs ever, all the way to figures from 20 years ago, all the way up to the Comic-Con exclusives, including the Andrew Garfield that's worth more than $10,000. So, let's go ahead and get into the video. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe down below, and let's get started. Alright, so for our first figure, we've got to take it back to the start, and that takes us to the way back year of 2002 with the original red and blue Spider-Man. Now, this version that you see here has a neck bracket on the back, which has a stud, and that's because he was in the studio set, so there was like a clear pole that you could connect in there and move your Spider-Man around. That being said, the following year in 2003, we would get a Spider-Man that didn't include the neck bracket, and Bricklink does count these as two separate figures, although the minifigure itself is completely identical between the two, but I figured I'd show you both since I have both, and yeah, that's our very first Spider-Man minifigure ever from 2002. Pretty amazing and pretty awesome to have in the collection all these years later. Here we've got Peter Parker from the Spider-Man Action Studio set that also came out in 2002. While he's not technically Spider-Man, he kinda is at the same time, so we are gonna include any Peter Parker variants as we get through this video. Now, as you can see, he just had plain blue legs, back printing was very rare back then, and of course he's got that great torso on the front. This one is actually a slight misprint. If you look and zoom in near the glasses, you can see that the white is printed below the frames, and you could twist it around to have the regular Peter head for Toby when he didn't have his glasses on, which I always thought was pretty cool because, again, back then, back printing was pretty rare on minifigs of any type. In the year 2003, we got the Wrestler Spider-Man. This figure only came in one set, Spider-Man's First Chase, which is an all-time classic today, and it's such a great minifigure all these years later. I should mention that all of these original minifigs are mine from when I was growing up as a kid, which is just so cool that I still have them in the collection all these years later. As you can see, the torso has the spider printed on it, and the head used the same heads from the old Ferrari pit crew members back in the day, but it's a great figure and one of the most valuable Spider-Man minifigures of all time, still selling for over $100 regularly to this day. In 2003, we also got another Peter Parker, aka in his Tobey Maguire outfit, but of course this time he does not have the printing on the back of the head, just on the front with his glasses, and this came in the set The Origins from the field trip scene from the first Spider-Man movie. Definitely cool, and this would be the last time we ever get a Peter Parker with the yellow skin tone. From here on out, he'll always be flesh tone. In 2004, we got Spider-Man 2 sets, and they changed the color scheme on Spider-Man to red and dark blue. He also had a different spider on the back, but beyond that, the prints are pretty identical from before, of course, just adjusting for the colors. This figure came in every single Spider-Man 2 set, and crazy enough, it would be the last time we would get a Spider-Man for 8 years, because this one came out in 2004, and the next Spider-Man would come out in 2012. Still, there are more Spider-Man figures that came out in the year 2004, so we'll take a look at those in just a moment, but this is one of my all-time favorite minifigures, and I absolutely love it 20 years on. In the Doc Ock's Hideout set, we got our Tobey Maguire Peter Parker from Spider-Man 2, the very first time we would ever get Peter with flesh tone, and I think this figure has aged pretty well over the years. As you can see, there is no printing on the back of the head or the torso. I told you it's exceptionally rare, and it is very cool to have this. It's a great looking figure, and like I said, I really do think it's aged pretty well. In the early 2000s, LEGO experimented with a line of Junior sets with a character named Jack Stone. Spider-Man did not remain unscathed, and they made a Spider-Man and Peter Parker, as well as a police officer and Dr. Octopus, that you could collect back in the day. These have not really gone up in value because they are really, really weird, but at the same time, they are essential if you're going for a complete Spider-Man collection. So we've got the dark blue Spider-Man from Spider-Man 2, as well as Tobey Maguire style Peter Parker. When you remember that a lot of LEGO hair was flat like this back in the day, it is pretty cool that these Juniors figures had very textured hair like that, because it's kind of like what minifig hair looks like today. Nothing was removable or customizable on these figures. However, you could twist the wrists, of course you could twist the arms, and you could twist the legs just like a regular minifig, and their head could turn side to side, but overall, these are definitely kind of weird footnotes in LEGO history. As mentioned, to get to our next Spider-Man, we have to jump all the way up to the year 2012 with the Ultimate Spider-Man. The very first version of this figure had blue hips and blue legs. As we go through the years, you'll see that that gets changed up a little bit as more detail is added to the figure, but this very first figure came in a Doc Ock set with Iron Fist of all characters that was a Walmart exclusive but could also be found at the LEGO store and LEGO Online. I remember buying this figure at Walmart, and it's so cool that they did a really great version of Spider-Man that lends itself well to the comics, but also was pretty faithful to the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. Overall, this figure has become very nostalgic and a figure a lot of people want to add to their collections, and luckily there's quite a few of them out there, but they are getting more rare now that it's over 10 years old. 2012 was also the year we got the Symbiote Spider-Man, one of the rarest and most valuable LEGO Marvel figures to date. This routinely sells for over $1,000 if it has its backing card, which mine does, but we're not focusing on boxes or packaging in this video, just the minifigs itself. As far as the minifig is concerned, the torso is also the same one that was used on Venom for a very long time, but the head is completely exclusive. The legs, of course, are just regular black legs, and it is a really, really great looking minifigure, but again, where most of the value is having the figure with the original card it came on, so if you can find one without the card, you'll probably get it cheaper, but then you gotta worry if it's actually legit or not. If you have one with the card, more than likely it's legit, so you're good to go, which again, is where a lot of the value comes from. We got lots of new Spider-Man sets in 2013, but only one new Spider-Man minifigure, and the one you're looking at here is worth over $10,000. Yes, you heard me right. This is the super limited edition 2013 Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man 2 version of the character. So, the story behind this is, it was a Comic-Con exclusive in 2013, so you had to be at San Diego Comic-Con, and you had to enter a raffle and win. There were only 350 of these that were raffled off, so you had to be really lucky to get one in the first place, and because only 350 of them exist out there, it makes it one of the most valuable LEGO minifigs ever, not to mention it's of Spider-Man, and of course, he's one of the most popular superheroes ever. So, this is the rarest version of one of the most popular characters of all time, which means he will always be worth a fortune, and I'm very grateful to own this very valuable figure in my collection. Of course, a lot of the value, like the figure we just looked at, comes from the packaging, and I do have the packaging, but if you want to see that, you can check out my video dedicated to this figure that's on my channel now. In 2014, we got a slight update to the Spider-Man in his Ultimate Spider-Man look, and this time he had red hips. There's nothing new about the figure other than that, but it technically is a variant, and at the time, I loved this upgrade, but then I thought, well, you could kind of see his belt is already printed on the torso, so why did he need the red hips? I don't know, and apparently LEGO understood the assignment pretty quickly because this only appeared in one set back in the day. It's not really that valuable or that rare, it's just kind of an interesting little blip, and if you're trying to get them all, you gotta have this one too. In 2015, we got our first ever Duplo Spider-Man. Duplo, of course, are LEGO bricks that are aimed at the youngest of builders, and so the sets themselves are much bigger, and that means the figures are bigger too. There's nothing really too crazy or cool about this, but we do get another Duplo Spider-Man several years down the line, which we'll take a look at as we go in order here. But as you can see, it moves at the hips, you could turn the head, and you could turn the arms, but the wrists do not turn. It is pretty similar to the other Spider-Man. I guess I'll show them to you side by side. They are very, very similar, but the original one has smaller eyes. So we'll come back to that other Duplo Spider-Man a little later, but for now, there's your first ever LEGO Duplo Spider-Man. 2015 was also the year we got our first Miles Morales minifigure ever. Now, I love Miles' suit with the black and red, the details are so awesome, but the suit is kind of, it just is what it is, right? So it is very hard to see like a lot of the upgrades as the years go on, because all the suits do look pretty similar. The main thing to remember about this first one is that it kind of has the thinnest webs of them all, at least in my opinion, and it's a really great looking figure overall. It also came in a pretty cheap set, so it was awesome that everybody had a chance to get Miles if you were buying LEGO Spider-Man sets in 2015. 2015 also gave us the ultimate version of the Ultimate Spider-Man, this time giving him dual molded legs for the very first time. Of course, that gives you the red on bottom and blue on top, and in my opinion, this is the best look for the Ultimate Spider-Man that we ever got. The torso and head are exactly the same, but adding some color to the feet of the legs has been something that's been awesome for LEGO over the years, pretty revolutionary, and for characters like Spider-Man, an absolute necessity. Going forward, most Spider-Mans will have dual molded legs from here on out, although that's not true for all of them, but for most of them. 2015 also gave us an Iron Spider minifigure for the first time. We'll get a few more of these as the years go by, but for right now, this one was really great. It came in the Rhino Sandman team-up set, again from 2015, and I love the gold eyes on this. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove the arms from the back as well as the head so that you can see the printing underneath, and it looks really cool to show that the arms are retracted in like that, and overall it's a really, really great figure, and one that's surprisingly gone up in value despite the fact that we've gotten multiples. I think for people like me that are trying to get every single Spider-Man, this one only came in one set, so it's not super common to find out there, and definitely one you want to keep an eye out for. 2016 was the first year we got Mighty Micros from the LEGO Superheroes themes. They did them for Marvel and DC, and basically the idea was to give you a short-legged, very cartoony version of your favorite superheroes, and they all came with one of their iconic villains that were equally cartoony, and the very first Spider-Man one is the one you're seeing here from 2016. These are just kind of zany, weird additions to the LEGO lineup, and they're cool, but they're just, I don't know, I wouldn't spend too much time trying to track them down. They're not really worth a ton, but they are interesting things to add to your lineup for sure. 2016 also brought us one of the most valuable LEGO Spider-Mans to date, and that is the Scarlet Spider from the Web Warriors Bridge Battle. This is great because he has arm printing with those web shooters around his wrists, and overall, it's just a great minifig. You got that great torso, you've got that blue hood piece, there's a little bit of printing underneath with the second hood. That's a little redundant, but the hood piece does look really good, and this figure is so awesome all these years later. We would get one more Scarlet Spider a little bit further down the line, but he'd be Mighty Micros, so this is the best comic book accurate version of Scarlet Spider to date, and one of the most sought after Spider-Man minifigs of all time. As if 2016 wasn't already a great year for LEGO Spider-Man, we got our first ever MCU Spider-Man, and this came in the Civil War Tanker Truck Showdown. This set was exclusive to Toys R Us and the LEGO Store and LEGO Online, so it's a set that a lot of people missed out on just because they didn't see it at, their normal LEGO retailers or whatever, but there's something peculiar about this version. Well, it's our first traditional Peter Parker Spider-Man that has arm printing, if you don't count the Scarlet Spider we just looked at a few moments ago, but he also has a unique spider on the torso. Now, we're going to jump ahead 1 year here and show you the 2017 Spider-Man Homecoming version next to him, because you'll be able to tell the difference between the torsos pretty quickly. As you can see, the 2017 one has the accurate spider that we see in the MCU and Civil War and Homecoming and all that, whereas the original version from 2016 still has the concept version of the spider, which is used in filming, and they actually changed it digitally afterward. If you look too, there are some slight variations in the arm print between the two, but overall the figures are very similar, and now that we've transitioned into 2017, I'll show you our next minifig from that year. Our 2017 other Spider-Man minifig is the second Mighty Micros version, and it's a decent figure. It's basically identical to the last one, except he's squinting from the other side of his eye. So yeah, nothing too crazy or new here, definitely a little bit weird, but again, these are just kind of quirky footnotes in LEGO history. 2018 was a great year for LEGO Spider-Man. Some of the most valuable retail Spider-Man minifigs ever came out that year, and this one is no exception. This is the Iron Spider from the Sanctum Sanctorum Showdown from Avengers Infinity War. This is a great figure because we got the leg printing, we got arm printing with the gold on there, and a phenomenal new torso. Of course, he does have those Iron Spider arms on the back, and if we lift the head up, we can take those arms off and see that there's a great printing on the back of the figure as well. Like I said, this is a very valuable figure now because he only came in one $100 set back in the day, and since this suit has appeared in every Spider-Man movie since, at least MCU movie that is, it's definitely gone up in collectability and value as the years have rolled on by. This is also the year we got our brand new comic book style Spider-Man. This reflected what his suit looked like in the comics back around the time of 2018. And interestingly enough, this is a time where he debuted with the red boots, but the next time we see this figure the following year, they took the red boots away and actually downgraded the figure. We'll get there in just a minute, but it's really cool how there's actually a little bit of blue reflectiveness around the edge of the eyes. As I turn it, you can kind of see that, and he does have a really cool spider on the torso, and it definitely looks a little bit more comic booky than the Ultimate Spider-Man version from before. Personally, I prefer the Ultimate Spider-Man version, but both look really good, and they're both essential to have in your collection if you're trying to get them all. 2018 also gave us our second Miles Morales minifigure. Remember, the last one had come out in 2015, so it had been a while and it was time to add another one to the roster. This figure is really cool as well. Nothing too crazy different about this one versus the previous one. I mean, they're pretty much identical besides the hand colors being different, but there are some slight variations in the torso as well as the face print and the webbing. So nothing too crazy, but technically they are different. So if you're trying to get them all, you gotta have both. Another one of the most valuable Spider-Man minifigs came out in 2018, and that's Spider-Man 2099. Now, he shot up in value after popularity rose from the Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 movie, but this figure is so awesome. I remember having a Spider-Man 2099 action figure as a kid. I actually vividly remember opening it at Pizza Hut with my grandfather, of all things, but regardless, this figure is so cool. You've got the face print on the front, and great torso print on the front as well, and just very, very subtle print details on the back of the head and the torso. It's a great figure that's aged exceptionally well, and this one routinely sells for over $100 as of this video. Definitely a rare figure and an awesome one to boot. And our final minifigure for Spider-Man 2018 is the Mighty Micros version of the Scarlet Spider. It's a pretty good version, and honestly, if you couldn't get or afford the original version, I mean, it's not that bad of a substitute, to be honest. The head would actually work pretty well for Deadpool, but I'm trying not to talk about customs in this video, and only talk about the figures that we see here. Still, it hasn't shot up in value a ton because it's Mighty Micros, but it is kind of a secret little hack way that you could get a Scarlet Spider for your collection, and just add some tall red legs to it to call it a day. Alright, that brings us to the year 2019, and remember I said we'd get that same Spider-Man from before again, but this time they took away the dual molded legs and just gave us blue legs. It's definitely a downgrade, but again, if you're trying to get every variant, you gotta have them all, and that means you gotta have this one too. Spider-Man Far From Home sets came out in 2019, and that gave us our first Tom Holland Peter Parker minifigure. Of course, you can see he's got his mask lifted up over his face. This minifigure did not come with a full Spider-Man mask, you just got what you see here, but you can see his Spider-Man suit peeking out from under his shirt, and the head is reversible with a little bit of a scared face going on there, so yeah, really good figure. Not a great Tom Holland likeness, but that torso is really great. Gotta love the little hoodie print on the back, and that lifted up mask is definitely a very cool addition as well. 2019 also gave us the Stealth Spider-Man suit, aka his Night Monkey look, and this figure was awesome. You got leg printing with hip printing and toe printing, as well as great printing on the head and the torso. I always wish it had a SHIELD logo on there like the movie, but it still looks great in the end, and it's definitely an awesome figure that I'm glad LEGO didn't skip out on giving us. Now, when Spider-Man Far From Home came out, they did not give us the black and red suit. We'd have to wait a couple years for that. They just used the same Homecoming minifigure over again. That being said, there was an accessory pack you could only get at the LEGO store or LEGO online that came with an alternate head with his mask lifted up and a cheek full of pizza. So, again, this is one of those figures that slips through the radar for a lot of people, but not me. So, you gotta make sure you have it and add them to your collection here. Now look guys, you may think I'm a crazy person for this, but I am including a keychain here. Now to this point, there have been several Spider-Man keychains, but the minifigure itself is not different than what we actually got in the sets. So to me, that doesn't count. However, this minifigure is different from what we got in the sets for the sole reason that the head is wrong. So if you take a look, this has the metallic Spider-Man, but the spider is actually printed a little bit darker on the keychain than it is here. You can see that the web printing on the torso is printed darker than on the actual minifig. You get the dual molded legs, which technically came on a variant of this, but the head on this keychain comes from the Ultimate Spider-Man. So you you've got a mix match of parts going on with the keychain, and I know it's kind of silly to count a keychain in the complete Spider-Man run, but because there's so much difference going on with this minifigure, I think it's unique enough to count, so here he is on the list. 2019 rounded out by giving us the ultimate video game Spider-Man from Spider-Man PS4. Yes, this is a real minifigure, and he is worth a fortune now. In fact, he routinely sells for over $1,000, and for good reason, because it's super rare, limited to Comic-Con, just like the previous Comic-Con figures we talked about, where you had to enter a raffle and be lucky enough to win, and so on and so forth. But he had hip printing, leg printing, and toe printing, along with a phenomenal video game accurate torso and head print, and some awesome printing on the back of the figure. Once again, most of the value from this figure comes if you have the packaging, which I do, but that's not the focus of this video, so we'll keep rolling on. But I'm very grateful to have this one in my collection, and it's definitely one of my favorites. Ah yes, the year 2020, where all the wonderful things happened. If you can't tell my sarcasm, we did get a few good Spider-Man minifigs that year. The first of which is an updated Iron Spider. So this one has what's called hook claws. As you can see here, they just kind of hook in like that. It's a much more detailed version of the figure than the previous one. The previous one is a little bit more like comic booky. This one's a little bit more cartoony. At least that's the way I've always thought it in my head. But we can lift that head up and see a great print on the back again as well. Then we can slide that back on, slide the head back on, and have a great Iron Spider in our collection that again debuted in 2020. Now, as of this video, LEGO has not made any direct Into the Spider-Verse or Across the Spider-Verse sets yet, but they did give us a Spider-Ham in 2020 that kind of rode on the heels of the success of the movie from the previous year. That being said, I love that they put some printing on his snout with the Spider-Man logo, and overall, it's a really great figure with subtle nuance there with the, curly pigtail and the pig head on the spider on the back, as well as just a great print on the front that has a little bit of a belly going on there. So a great figure overall, and definitely a cool one to have. 2020 would bring us our final Comic-Con Spider-Man, at least as of this video, and this one didn't come out at Comic-Con per se, but it was supposed to. This is, of course, the PS5 Miles Morales, and because all conventions were canceled that year, it's theorized that this would have been a Comic-Con exclusive. However, there was no convention for it to be given away at, so it actually ended up becoming a PS5 exclusive, where if you completed some goals in the Spider-Man PS5 game, you could enter to win this, and then they were mailed to winners instead of, having to be at an event or Comic-Con. It's a really great looking figure with an awesome subtle hip print, as well as leg and toe printing, and overall a great torso, and of course back of head and torso print as well. It is one of the most valuable Spider-Man minifigures, routinely selling for over $3,000 as of this video. It's been a while since we've talked Duplo, and in 2021 we got some brand new Duplo Spider-Man minifigures, that of course being Spider-Man and Miles Morales. There's not really much to say about these. We've already looked at how these are articulated, and of course little kids love these and that's great for them, but for the adult collectors, there's not much to get excited about here. That being said though, you know what I'm gonna say, if you're trying to get them all, gotta have these ones too. Okay, so 2021 was the best year ever for LEGO Spider-Man. Not only did the Daily Bugle come out in 2021, but we got our first ever comic book Spider-Man with arm printing. It looks so great, and of course this is the 2021 variant, and to date, I would say it's our best comic book looking Spider-Man. Of course, you gotta love having those dual molded legs. There would be instances where we get this figure without the dual molded legs, but overall, this one looks great. It's come in lots of sets, even to this day, years later, so it's not particularly rare, but it is a good one to add to the collection, and definitely a hallmark figure with that awesome arm print. 2021 gave us a really great Miles Morales minifigure, this time with his hoodie on. He's got a Spider-Man patch on the back of the hoodie, as well as an open jacket so you could see his suit underneath. If we take the hood off, you can see he's got a great head print underneath as well, with printing on the back, and dual molded legs that kind of have like gray sweatpants up top, and of course black boots on the bottom. We also got a Spider-Man Noir that year, and of course, this is kind of riding off the popularity of Into the Spider-Verse, although it didn't come in a direct tie-in set. He came with a black fedora, which if we lift off, you can see he's got some really great printing on the face there. No printing on the back of the head, but we do get a little printing on the back of the torso jacket, and we've got a big long trench coat that goes down onto his legs that makes for a very memorable figure, and one of the harder to get Spider-Man figures now, because again, he really really was not around for a long time, and he's a popular character, so that means the price is going up. In the Spider-Man layer set, we got the Big Time suit, which of course is a great one. Looks a lot like the Anti-Ox suit from the video games, but it's got a green detail on it. I would say of the Spider-Man sets that have come in retail sets, it's definitely among the most unique out there. Of course, he's got toe printing, leg printing, and hip printing, as well as awesome front torso and head printing, and some really great stuff going on the back of the torso as well. Overall, a really great figure and one I've come to love over the years. In the same Spider-Man layer set, we got this version, which is kind of like a hybrid of his homemade suit from the MCU, as well as Scarlet Spider. It's just got a lot of similarities going on without it being any one specific thing. We do get the same mask piece and face piece as the Venice Spider-Man, the Peter Parker from Far From Home, but the rest of it, well, basically just the torso, is exclusive here, which makes for a really nice variation of the figure, and definitely one that looks great among the big lineup. The Daily Bugle in 2021 gave us a great Peter Parker minifigure. Yeah, the torso was used in other places, as was the head, but overall, it really is a nice figure. Now, if we lift the hairpiece up, you can see it's still using that same headpiece we've seen on Peter in basically every modern version as of late, but it's a really nice figure and definitely a cool inclusion. I really want just a regular Miles Morales next, but we haven't gotten that just yet. We also got an Iron Spider variation in 2021, and this one is the same minifigure as far as the head and torso are concerned, but it uses the Infinity War style arms. So it is a slight variation, and when you're trying to get them all, well, you know the mantra by this point. We got an advent calendar that year. It was an Avengers advent calendar, but they did throw us a Spider-Man minifigure in there that was exclusive. This version has the Letterman jacket on, which of course you can see has a little spider patch on it, and on the back it has a Spider-Man logo patch printed on as well. A very cool figure, and one that kind of slipped through the cracks for a lot of people, but definitely a cool one to add to the lineup. 2021 also brought us the LEGO Marvel CMF Series 1, which is absolutely legendary all these years later. That got us the Zombie Hunter Spider-Man from the zombie episode of What If, which of course came with Doctor Strange's cloak. Now, the crazy thing is, as cool as it was to get the cloak, it actually hides a lot of the great detail that's on this figure. First off, we've got the amazing arm print on this with the web shooters, and of course that immaculate print on the back of the torso. As we move it around, you can see he's got dual molded legs, which for the first time has printing on it for a Spider-Man, which looks really, really great. And as if all of that wasn't awesome enough, it also came with a Peter Parker head, which in my opinion is the best Tom Holland likeness we've been given, which is kind of ironic considering Tom Holland didn't even do the voice for Spider-Man in What If. If we lift that around, you can see he's got a scared face on the back, and overall, it's a phenomenal minifigure that really has aged well and is one of the most desirable minifigs out there because of its amazing detail. 2021 was finally the year that we got the Far From Home black and red suit. This came in a 4+ set with Mysterio as well as a poly bag, which is pretty cool, but he does have dual molded legs with printing on them, which, you know, is nice to get. It's actually the second time we got it, but pretty nice. Well, you're going to see it a lot here, actually, for the foreseeable future of these minifigs. But anyways, great head print here, awesome torso print, great leg print, and overall, it's a real standout among the MCU Spider-Man minifigs. One of my favorite minifigures is the black and gold suit from Spider-Man No Way Home. This came in a set where he was fighting Vulture, which of course never happened in the movies, him wearing this suit and fighting Vulture, but they didn't really have much to go off of for the No Way Home sets, but at least we got a really detailed and accurate minifigure with some phenomenal detailed arm printing, as well as printing all over the rest of the figure. It's a real standout, and I love the way that gold shimmers and shines under my studio lights. And finally, at the end of 2021, we also got this figure from Spider-Man No Way Home, which is the integrated suit. This came in the Doctor Strange Workshop set, and it's a really nice figure. We'd be getting it in several sets over the next several years from No Way Home, but overall, it's really great to get that dual molded leg print there, with the black up top, red on bottom, and all that great line detailing, hip printing, and all of that great stuff going on. Definitely a nice one. We only got 3 new minifigs of Spider-Man in 2022, which makes sense because we got so many in 2021 that we just went through. The first 2 are Spidey and Miles Morales from Spidey and His Amazing Friends. These are 4+ sets, and they are very cool in that they have mid-sized legs, which are shorter legs that are also posable. Now, we'll be seeing a lot of Spidey minifigs over the next several years as we wrap up this video. Don't worry, guys, we're almost to the end. But these are pretty nice. Miles having red legs is very odd to me. Luckily, they will course correct that in a little bit here, but for right now, it is a little jarring. Overall, these are nice, unique additions to the collection, and 2 of the 3 minifigs that came out in 2022. The other Spider-Man we got came in the Sanctum Sanctorum set, which is a really awesome set in its own right, but of course, we get this great Spider-Man, which, after all this time, I can say I do think it is a definitive upgrade from the original. This is the one that came out in 2017 for Spider-Man Homecoming, and we'd see it again in 2019 for Spider-Man Far From Home, and there are just some subtle differences. You could tell that the arm print is different between the 2. The torso print is different as well. The new one does have like a wider center of the red area. I do think it kind of makes him look a little bit more bulky, which, again, I could see some people liking, some people not, but we do get toe printing this time around, and we get hip printing on the Sanctum version, which definitely adds a lot of points when we're going for the subtle nuance detail addition. So it is a really cool figure and definitely a great one. 2023 brought us some amazing new minifigs as well. Actually, as far as the quality of the figures go, I'd say it's among the best. This, of course, brought us a brand new Miles Morales, which is really our most detailed yet because he's just got some subtle gray detailing added there, especially along like the web line of his belt, which looks really good. And this came in the car set where he's fighting against Morbius. I still can't believe we have a LEGO Morbius, but it also brought us this great Miles figure, so that's a big thumbs up from me. 2023 continued the trend of getting Spidey and His Amazing Friends sets. This time we got Spidey and Miles, but they both have white spiders on their torsos, and Miles finally got the black legs, so that's pretty nice. There's not really much to say about these because they're pretty simple in detail, but they're interesting additions to add to the lineups for sure. From that same wave of Spidey sets, we also got a very random addition in this Scuba Miles Morales. You can see that he's got a big bubble on his head for scuba diving and a red suit with some black detailing and a yellow spider. It's definitely weird. I don't really know the context for it in the show, but, well, you know what I've been saying this whole time. It's another one you got to add to the collection because it's just that unique. If you're new to collecting LEGO, you may not know what it was like to live through the hype of hoping and praying that LEGO was going to give us No Way Home, Toby, and Andrew, and they finally did in 2023. Man, these figures look so great. Of course, you get the iconic designs for both of the Spider-Man here, both with dual molded legs. The Toby, just, it looks so good. Andrew looks so good. And when you think about it, in 2023, the last Toby that had come out was 19 years prior in 2024, and the only Andrew like this that had come out was the Comic-Con version that we looked at earlier, the $10,000 version. So the fact that you could get both of these in a set that retailed for a little over $100 was so nice for the fans, and both of them came with heads that you could swap out that would give you their Peter Parker likeness. Now, I think the Andrew one is pretty spot on. The Toby one, I'm not so sure about that. It's all right, but the Andrew one is literally spot on perfect, especially the reverse side of the head. I think that these are really great figures. They're going to age well, and dare I say, I think they're going to go up in value quite a bit too. 2023 rounded out with one more Spider-Man, and this came in the Advent calendar. Once again, he has the Spider-Man logo on the back, and it's just kind of like an ugly sweater version of Spider-Man. Nothing too crazy, nothing too new, but again, you know what I'm going to say. So much so that I'm not even going to say it. And that brings us to 2024, which is currently the year that this is being filmed in. This did give us some new minifigures. We've got some rumors that we're getting some Spider-Man stuff at the end of the year, but for right now, still going to put out the video because it is what it is. Anyways, we've got a Miles Morales here, and he's got gray legs this time. Remember the last time we saw him with this hoodie, he actually had the dual molded legs with the black boots on the bottom, but this time they actually downgraded him for whatever reason and just gave him gray legs, so that's kind of a move backward, but it is what it is. 2024 brought us two new Spidey and His Amazing Friends, Miles and Peter variants. Of course, they've still got those mid-sized legs, and this time their spiders are gold, so it's kind of interesting. Again, I don't really know what the context of this is in the show, but the designs look pretty cool, and I can say that at least. And finally, we've got one more variant, and that is the 2024 Keychain Spider-Man. Now, I know what you're thinking about the keychain, but allow me to explain. You can see that it's a keychain of the actual version from the sets, which, you know, that's all well and good, but when you look at the arm printing on the keychain is actually different. It's significantly darker, and it's actually placed a little bit differently on the arm as well. I think you could argue that the torso is printed a little bit darker too, but that might just be my eye, but there's no doubt about it that the arms are definitely different and unique from each other, which in my book constitutes as it being a new minifigure. I mean, heck, if we count every version of this that doesn't have dual molded legs as a different minifig, then having different arms definitely should count too. So let's go ahead and wrap it up and call it a day. Alright guys, that brings today's video to a close. This was so much fun, so nostalgic, and honestly, just a great time to look at all these figures. So let me know which figures in this collection you have, which ones you want the most, and if you haven't already, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss another video here at Mini Superheroes Today.